I've left a lot of jobs in my life, but this particular job I left after 72 hours. And the experience really shifted something in me in a surprising way. So, let me give you some context here because this story doesn't start with said job. It starts 3.5 years ago when I quit my corporate job to backpack travel across Asia and Europe. And honestly, this was one of the best decisions I've ever made. It has completely expanded the vision that I have for my life. It's reconnected me with what actually matters most to me. And it showed me a different way of living that I didn't even know was possible. But here's the thing with choices is that they all have consequences. And over the last 3.5 years, I have been investing my energy in things that I enjoy, personal projects, coaching, freelance work, and trying to build my own thing. But I'm also in a season where I'm wanting and actively working toward more stability. And this is new for me. This is probably the first time in my life that I felt this kind of uncertainty. And I'm not going to pretend that it's comfortable because it is not. It is very, very uncomfortable for me. So I opened myself up to the possibilities for earning, and that meant expanding, putting feelers out there for contract work to create some breathing room for myself while I keep building and making steps toward the life that I envisioned for myself. And that's essentially how I ended up in this situation. So I am going to be intentionally vague about the specifics of this role, not because there isn't tea, because there's a lot of tea and there's a story here, but because that's not what this video is about. But what I will say is that within the first 24 hours of starting this role, my body had a visceral response. And I've learned to pay attention to what my body tells me. In the past, I would ignore my body's messages and my logic, my brain would run the show and my body would take a back seat. So I would operate a lot from my headspace instead of connecting to my body and understanding what my body was trying to tell me. But I've changed since. And in this situation, there was a very distinct feeling, a heaviness that just a heaviness that came over me immediately, with even within an hour of the first day. My energy shifted over the 3 days. I felt anxious in a way that I couldn't explain. I had trouble sleeping. I just felt this weight that I couldn't shake. And I remember sitting with this feeling and being like, oh, I know what this is. I felt this before. It feels very familiar. And the thing is, there's a pattern that I have, and I'm well aware of it. And in that moment, that pattern was coming up again. So I have this history of chasing paychecks. I have this history of choosing jobs based on what they offer me financially instead of whether or not they're actually right for me and they're aligned with who I am and what I want in a deeper way. Most of my jobs have been soul sucking by my experience, but I chose them anyway because they felt safe, because they looked good, and because the money made sense. So, if I were to summarize, for me, the paycheck has always been the golden handcuff that's basically kept me in roles that weren't right for me. So when I took this contract role, I told myself I was going in with an open mind, that it wasn't just about the money. It was a strategic approach. I was being strategic and thinking long term. But by day 2, I started to feel this pull because the voice in my head is like doing the math, right? My body feels disconnected. My body feels like this isn't right. But then the voice in my head is calculating numbers and reminding me how much closer this opportunity is getting me to the stability that I'm working towards and looking for. And I just remember thinking, I know in my bones, in my muscles, that this isn't right. And I also know that I want to quit, but I'm not sure I'm going to let myself do that. And I do remember thinking to myself, Deanna, you do not live to work, you work to live. That is your philosophy. If anything has become apparent to you over the last 3.5 years, it is that. But then this other voice showed up as well, the one that was like asking me about what other people would think. What would people say if I left after 3 days? Would they think I'm flaky? Would they think I'm unprofessional, that I'm not able to commit? And there was a fear of judgment that came over me. I was scared to disappoint people, to be seen as someone who couldn't see things through, who wasn't reliable. And I know that this fear has historically kept me in a lot of situations longer than I should have stayed in them. But something was really different this time. There was a part of me that was just done. I was done with compromising on things that mattered to me. And I was done with talking myself into situations that my body was clearly saying no to. Um, I was done with letting the fear of what other people would think make choices for me. So after 72 hours, I left. And it was an interesting experience because the emotional experience I had afterwards was kind of a bit of a roller coaster. It came in waves. At first, I felt a bit of shame, and then I felt this discomfort in wondering, did I make a mistake? Am I is my the desire, what I want in work, is it unrealistic? Am I being too sensitive? Am I asking for too much? Then I felt this relief because I realized, oh, this isn't good for me. I've let this go, weight off of my shoulders. And then the last thing I felt, which was the biggest surprise, was a sense of pride. And the pride wasn't because I quit. The pride was because I broke a pattern. For the first time, I was able to quickly recognize what wasn't right for me. And I didn't talk myself into it. I didn't compromise on things that actually matter to me. I didn't let the money or the fear of judgment override what I knew to be true in my body. And that felt like huge progress for me. So I'm sharing this because I think it's something a lot of people can relate to. And it may not be in a job context, it may be a relationship or another situation, another commitment that you know or you knew wasn't right for you, but you talked yourself into staying in it anyways because of money or fear or what others might think about it. And what I keep learning in a gradual and imperfect way is that your body knows. Your body knows before your brain catches up. The heaviness, the anxiety, the tightness that I felt in my body, the trouble sleeping, that was information. That was how my soul was choosing to communicate with me. At least that's what I think. And while I'm still figuring out the stability piece, and I don't have that solved just yet, I have a clearer sense of what I'm willing and not willing to compromise on to get there. And that to me feels like big progress. So drop a comment if any of this resonated with you. And yeah, I would love to hear your story and just your experience in listening to your body, your experience in staying in situations longer than you think you should have, your experience in listening to your body and um, in your mind overriding what your body's telling you. So, yep, thanks for listening. See you in the next video.